My name is Christy Busby, and you are about to listen to the next episode of my podcast called F.A.T.E, From Atheism to Enlightenment. So come on in, join me. We're going to talk about it all, from atheism to enlightenment. Alrighty, guys, here we go. Get ready, and welcome to your fate. Welcome, everyone, to the next episode of F.A.T.E. How's everybody doing out there? On today's show, I have all the way from the UK, the Queen of Tarot herself. Janis King is on the show today. She's got a new book out called The Life Code Tarot, A Fool, a Magician, and the Secret of Life. I'm super excited to talk all things tarot today. Janis King, welcome to your F.A.T.E, my friend. How you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Christy. It is so lovely to meet you, and thank you so much for inviting me to come. I'm absolutely delighted.
Well, I do love to talk tarot. I'm fascinated by tarot. I read your book. I thought it was super intriguing. Let's get into it. But first, I always like to hear everyone's journey in this life, and I'd love to hear yours. How did we get here? How did you become so immersed in the world of tarot? Did you have a spiritual awakening? You mentioned Dark Night of the Soul in your book. Do tell.
Okay. Yes, I did have a dark night to the soul, which lasted about 3 years. So it was a very long night.
Oh, wow.
But it sort of came about really because it obviously nothing happens in isolation, Christy. We know that. So I had been interested in energy for a very long time. And I had, but one of the things that I had not wanted to do was make it my job. So I was a performer, I was a musician, but in the background I was fascinated by energy, by the subconscious mind, by how much power we do or don't have. Okay. And really just, it was almost like not an obsession, but it was certainly quite a powerful force in my life, to the point where I even got qualified as a hypnotherapist
Oh.
just to learn about how we can, maybe that way in, maybe we can have more effect. So I decided on a grand experiment. And I decided that what I was going to do was put all my calling powers to the test. So that's what I did. And I started this all-girl record label. And that went like a rocket. It was almost like it was supercharged, right? And then after about 18 months, I've been asked to manage this young woman who's the daughter of a UK celebrity. And, we were literally that close to a major deal. It was all going spiffingly well. And then within 48 hours, everything crashed. And the label folded, my marriage folded. It all just went, it all just hit the deck. So that was really difficult, as you can imagine. To say I was angry doesn't even cover it, right? So anyway, I hit the deck, and I was still meditating, going into, hell, why? And I asked in one of my rants at God, if I could please, have a map of how to do life. Then later on, I did a meditation where this little boy came into this meditation and handed me this white stone egg, into which was carved a sleepy white bird. And I said to this little boy, "Well, are you a guide?" And he shook his head. And I said, "Oh, well, it's a white dove." And then he nodded his head and ran away. Okay. I had no idea what that was about. But then a few weeks later, when I was in Camden Market, I saw the shop, and in the shop was a big sign that said tarot readings. I went in. I thought maybe there were answers there. And the man behind the desk said, I think you need to speak to White Dove. He's the tarot reader. So,
Spooky. I mean,
yeah. So that happened.
that's oh.
Yeah.
And what did White Dove say? What did he say?
White Dove said that I was being moved to a new path and that my request had been answered. So that, but this new path wasn't going to be visible to me for some time, and I was going to have 3 really difficult years. My life was being taken apart, put back together. So, and I said I refused. I don't want. I take it all back. This is not happening. I take it all back. Anyway, he said, "Well, that ship has sailed, so you're gonna have to just, you're gonna have to just suck it
It
up." So that happened, and that's how I got led to tarot, because obviously I was fascinated by what had just happened. I was fascinated by the information, so I thought, well, I will investigate further.
I I love
Oh,
that you number 1, you sound like you have, intuitive gifts, like you are tapped in somewhat to energy beyond the veil, shall we say. And I love that you were interested and not scared about the synchronicity with the boy coming to your meditation. And then, like, I love that. And it never ceases to amaze me how, if we pay attention to the universal energies, call source, God, spirit guides, whatever you want to call it, that you can have some sort of level of communication varying depending on what your intuitive gifts are until maybe you hone into them. But you can, like, I'm starting to experience some of this in my own life of being able to get very clear signs that I am being guided, very clear indications that I need to go a certain direction. And it is only because I've decided to kind of very much open myself to that type of energy and communication. So it's life is just super fascinating. Can you talk a little bit about what your intuitive gifts are? Do you hear things? Do you feel things? Do you feel like you have those kind of um abilities? Because it sounds
yeah.
like seems like you do.
Yeah. No, I have absolutely heard things. I mean, look, it doesn't happen on a regular basis. Okay. But yes, I absolutely have heard um, what appears to be sound. It doesn't sound in the out, it's sort of sound inside you, but very clear words. So, yes. And have periodically, there has been little visual things, not huge, but little visual things. Mainly it's sound and words that I get. And certainly when I'm reading, and I know this is, this happens to other readers as well, I'll find myself saying a thing that then the client says, "Oh my God, that's just exactly, I just heard that. I mean, that exact phrase, that is so weird. You said that. Why did you say that exactly?" And that's something that happens, you know, relatively um, regularly. Um,
Yeah.
and, and actually the first time it happened, where the words sort of were put into my mouth was quite a few years ago when I was doing a wedding in Canterbury, and I was put in this lovely room, and I was doing just 5 minutes reading. It was a long time ago, and it was, an event. And the groom's father came in. He was a very handsome, sharply dressed man. It was a very sort of high end wedding, and he sat down and said, "Okay." So I just want you to know that I think all this is rubbish and I don't really want to be here, but my wife says I have to come and do it. So can we please just get it over with so I can get back to the party and we can all move on? I said, of course, no problem. So I put 3 cards down for him and I just heard the words very clearly, healing heart. And the words that came out of my mouth were, if you don't follow the advice of your doctor and do it by the book, follow the rules, you know you will have another heart attack within the year. Now, I don't know how those words came out of my mouth, but when I said them, it just seemed blindingly obvious. And
Wow.
if I had stopped and thought about it, I probably wouldn't have had the courage to say it if I had,
Right.
you know, shall I say this?
Yeah.
Probably not. But they did come out of my mouth, and he looked like he'd been hit by a truck because he said, I that was the conversation I had with my consultant 3 days ago. What the hell was that? And I said, "Oh, well, this is what we do." Anyway, so he ran away. He literally, this very intelligent, sharply dressed, literally bolted like a frightened rabbit out the door, like looking like completely traumatized.
I mean, you probably I mean, it probably went one of 2 ways. He maybe had his own aha moment of like, "Oh my gosh, there really is more going on than what I think." He seemed like he was very confident that all of this was just tarot wasn't worth his time and that all of that was rubbish. Maybe you ended up triggering something in him and put him on his own path of, like,
Maybe.
discovery. Like, that's
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about tarot. It's so interesting. I've had my cards pulled a few times, but you say a little bit in the book that we don't really know the origins of tarot or how it came about. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I didn't know that tarot was sort of a mystery with as far as that goes, that it kind of touches all different areas of the world in a way with its origins, but we
Yeah.
don't really know how fully it came into existence. So what
Really.
what are your thoughts on
Oh,
that?
yeah. I mean, it really is a bit of a mishmash. I mean, look, we know that in Italy in the 14th century, we have the game tarocchi. We know that. So that is the sort of the roots of tarot, obviously, because it's tarocchi. And in tarocchi, they have the what's called the trumps, which morphed into the major arcana. And they also have the pip cards, so we know that that's the sort of the godfather of tarot. But how that all came about, it seems to have, I mean, the whole divination side of it and the whole mystical side of it seems to have come through the gypsy lineage. Now we use the word gypsy sensitively, because at the time they were supposed to have come from Egypt. People thought they'd come. Actually, where they came from was India. So they were traveling people, and the people from India brought with them um, sort of soul attribute cards of the god Vishnu, and they were cards that linked the people with the cards into the spiritual power of the god, and it was like the power of that divinity is within you. And so when you use that to connect, you're connecting into the divine power. Now that seems to have mashed together with playing cards in some way, and the whole thing seems to have formed a bit of a hybrid. And then it split up with playing cards just being the four suits and the royals and the joker, which is the fool in tarot. And so it sort of came together and it split off again. But how that happened, we don't know. I mean, there's a whole load of history in there that we don't quite understand. But we do know that the 14th century version was sort of the first identifiable version of tarot, but it wasn't the divination tarot. It wasn't the mystical tarot. It was very much a gambling game.
I didn't know that it was such a mystery it's kind of a mystical amalgamation of many things going into this ability to pull cards. You talk a little bit that tarot should be more of a mainstream way to guide ourselves through our life. Um, Talk about that, and why isn't tarot more mainstream? Is it because of, religion, or is it because just people's belief systems don't feel that it is possible? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I have a kind of a personal position on this, is that I see tarot as a message in and of itself. And this is feeding into the should tarot be more mainstream? Um, I think we're very used to using tarot as an oracle and as a divination system, and we are now becoming a lot more comfortable with tarot for self-awareness and to draw cards for guidance. And that's all lovely. But what I think we should be looking at is the tarot deck as a system, which is a message. And that I don't think has been discussed before. That's part of what I talk about in the book. And that message tells us how to do life. It's like a Bible, except, of course, it's an interactive Bible that you can talk to and will reply to you, which is quite a revelation, really. And in my discussion with my guides and the information that has come to me is that in a way, tarot has been positioned to go under the radar. So the idea is that we shouldn't need a hierarchy like the church or religion. We shouldn't need that hierarchy. The wisdom is the direct link is better. And now this is, oh God, this is so contentious, and I don't want to offend anybody, but part of the message I was given was the Messiah experiment failed. And so
Mm.
now we're going direct. So the idea is that anybody can speak to spirit and get guidance through tarot with a little bit of learning. Anybody can do it. It's complete. It's not controlled by a hierarchy. It doesn't threaten. It has no sin attached to it. It's only concerned with the human condition and bringing the human condition and spirit into closer alignment.
How do you feel tarot works? Because it does seem to be awfully spot on a lot when I get my tarot read, like, you've been reading tarot for years. I'm sure you can attest to how spot on it can be for people as a way to maneuver, around obstacles in their lives. Why does it work? Why are we when we pull cards, is it spirit pulling the cards? Is it like it's kind of mystical and magical in itself that it even works. And I kind of liken it almost to the pendulum. For some reason, you can hold a pendulum and you can get pretty accurate responses to true or false questions or yes or no questions. And I kind of feel like there is this ether energetic energy that's around us that is guiding that pendulum that is maybe coming within, maybe coming from surrounding entities. What are your thoughts on how tarot energetically works?
Yeah. And again, you know what? The honest answer is I don't think anybody has an absolute slam dunk, clear, 100% guaranteed answer.
Great answer.
Yeah.
It's true though, right? It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think it's a combination of us and the energetic world working together. You see,
Mm.
we are connected energetic beings. We are anyway, right? So whether or not we choose to read tarot, whether or not we're an accountant in a firm downtown on Main Street or whatever, we are all doing it, whether we know we're doing it or not. We are all energetic beings. We are all transmitting and receiving all the time. Our physicality is a sort of just a way of getting around. So
Yeah.
because we're transmitting and receiving all the time anyway, the information, it would appear to me, is just everything. It's the potential of everything. And so what we're doing is like a radio, we're tuning in. A bit, almost like a little bit like the internet, right? It's like the
Yeah.
energetic internet. It's just all out there. All of the information that you need to know is out there. Now, of course, there are then conversations about time and how time works, because we definitely can look into the future. We do that, I think, for higher intention. We don't want to fortune tell, because fortune telling is really, I mean, it's boring, because it paints you into a corner and it just doesn't, it's not helpful. We think it might be, but it's a party trick and whatever. But, I don't think it's useful to us. So there is that. But ultimately, we are trying to get information which is already out there in as accurate a way as possible. Now, the expression through a glass darkly is one that I think really does sum it up, because those signals that come back to us, spirit has a very fast vibration. We have a much slower vibration. So therefore we can miss bits in the radio signal. It can get a little bit distorted, or, bits of words can be missing, which is why tarot is quite helpful, because it kind of smooths out the signal a little bit, which I think is why we're able to be very accurate. I've had some people say, well, do we even need tarot? We should be able to do this without tarot. And I guess that's true in theory, but tarot does take the risk out of it a bit. If you know what you're doing with the cards and you're fluent in the language, you can have a very detailed conversation with the cards that maybe would, I guess there are practitioners out there who are just super, super confident, and that's that. But I like the language. I like the pictorial language. It speaks to me in a way that I have faith in and trust.
Do you feel like I've talked to other people on this show, and some people have said that a lot of our life is already predetermined before we get here. The big things that we're supposed to accomplish, the big things that are supposed to affect us, to steer us in certain directions. What is your overall take on the nature of reality and how planned our lives are, and how tarot can actually explain to us maybe what our sole purpose is, maybe what we're supposed to be doing here and what we're supposed to be learning?
Yeah, yeah. And again, a complicated question. I hate making myself the arbiter of some massive truth that I don't have actual, proper proof for.
Yeah.
I'm a very logical person, and I like to go on my personal experience. Now, look, from my readings, it does appear that there are indeed fixed points, and certainly something that happened to me which sort of illustrates this, and it confused me quite a lot. So when I was building up to this Dark Night of the Soul episode, before it got really intense, and before my husband and I split up, we're back together again now, by the way.
Oh,
um I had a dream one night. Now I was being Reiki attuned at the time. And I had this, like my Reiki master said, write down your dreams because they'll be really vivid. So I did that. And there was one particular dream where I found myself standing in a doorway, And I was looking out, and I wrote it all down. There was a church right in front. There was a green, and right to the left of me was a shimmering lawn, quite strange. And there was a person standing next to me in the doorway, and the person said, you'd think it was like we were in a village or something. What with the green being in front, you almost wouldn't notice the road, would you? This is a very strange thing. Dreams are strange. So I had written this down and forgot about it. And 4.5 years later, I was running a gallery on Twickenham Green, and this was me coming out of this dark night of the soul. This was my healing space. And I found an old notebook. I was going to a convention to talk to artists, things about coming to show in the gallery. And at the back of the notebook, I found a list of I found these dreams and I read this and I nearly fell over because not only did the dream describe the view straight out the front door, the shimmering window was the window of the gallery that was on the street. That was the window. But I have had so many customers stand next to me in that doorway and say exactly those words. Oh my God, what's this? And I dreamt it 4.5 years ago, before my husband and I even split up. And what was interesting was when I woke up from the dream, I cried. And my husband said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "I don't know. But wherever it was home." And I lived at the gallery. I lived there. I had an accommodation out of the back of the gallery. And I dreamt it 4.5 years before. Now that means that was already set. I was already going there.
That's right. That was a
I
precognitive dream, don't you think?
Oh, 100%.
I love hearing these stories because it just makes me so excited to learn more about the nature of reality and what we're all doing here. You
Yeah.
even mentioned in your book the Matrix and talking to the Matrix. What is it? What exactly do you mean when I say the Matrix as well, but what do you mean when you're talking about communicating with the Matrix? That
Yeah. Now that was interesting because that was my original title for the book, Talking to the Matrix. Because obviously, when we say the Matrix, what we're looking at is the construct, right? The energetic construct that we're living in, the energetic world, the unseen world that's operating down there. Now that's what we know, we understand that. However, the Matrix came to mean something different in terms of the book. The Matrix came to mean the let out of the major arcana without the fool and the magician. So they stand at the top as us, being energetic beings, and they are two sides of the same coin. They represent us together. And then we have 4 lines of 5 cards. And each of those lines of 5 cards aligns to the 4 suits. Now that's new. Most tarot does not align the major arcana to the 4 suits. So they're aligned to the 4 suits, and they each fulfill a specific function. So we have a foundational ideal, an internal process, the regulation, which is in the middle. Then we have external influences, and then we have the guiding principle. So what this gives us is it gives us each of those positions on each of the 4 suits: our emotions, creating happiness, how we use our will, creating success, how we use our minds, overcoming problems and being able to regulate emotions enough to be able to think clearly and to be effective, and what experiences we need to create this successful life. And this is the matrix. And you can read it across and you can read it down like a times table, and it works in every direction, and it is fixed and immutable and perfect.
wow. That's that's pretty that's pretty amazing. Why don't we talk about the life code?
Mm.
When you referred to the life code, your book, tell us how the life code book will help people navigate, give them a different take on tarot, and explain their lives in a more meaningful way. And then I want to talk about who Obin is, but let's talk about your book and how it differs from traditional tarot.
Yes. Well, it doesn't change anything about traditional tarot. The system is the same. It just changes the way we look at it. Because most of the time we don't think about a tarot deck as being laid out in its entirety. And we don't look at that as an actual as a manual, because that's what I believe it is. It's a manual. So we have an instruction manual of energetic potential, and now everybody talks about the minor arcana as being the mundane every day. This is just what we're doing. Is probably the least important part, right? Certainly compared to the majors, which is the voice of spirit. So that's the boring part. I've heard so many people say that's the boring part. It isn't. So not wanting to go too much into detail, but this shows you how the Fool and the Magician are the way we use energy. So we have the Fool as the potential of all things. Potential energy is not affected by its environment. It just is perfect. As anybody who has sat down to write a book will know, it is perfect in your head. Sometimes when you start to write it, it unravels just a little bit. And then we have the magician who actuates that potential. The magician's job is to be an energetic conduit, as above, so below. So his job is to bring that potential to life. He unpacks potentials, the four suits, and then he masters them in the way of his choosing. Now, the four suits represent the four energetic potentials, and I see the Ace to 10 minor arcana run as being the unpacking that the magician has to do. That's the unpacking. The Ace to 10 run tells you what the potentials are. And so it enables you to look at them and get a handle on them and decide how you're going to do it. And the major arcana is guidance on, okay, this is the best way to be. And then you have the royals, which are embodying the different approaches we take to each part of the potential, whether we're going to be in learning mode, whether we're going to be in action mode, whether we're going to be embodiment mode, or whether we're going to step into mastery. And so what this system does is it sort of tells you how to do it without you doing any kind of reading. Now, how you can work it, because my friend Ray said to me while I was writing this, that's fine, but where's the reading? I want the read. So we can do an entire reading with one card. So we
Oh,
pick
wow.
one minor arcana card, and then we let the system unfold around it, a bit like there's your system, there's the majors, this is what they're saying, here's the royal, it means this is how you should be, this is what brought you here, this is what you need to encounter next, and this is where you're heading. And so we can do all this by just letting the tarot take the strain. You don't have to do anything else. You just have to let it do its thing. Just with one card. The one card is, I am here. Because when you have a map,
Mm,
you know where you are in order to know where you're going to go. So I
yeah.
am here. And then the system literally does its thing. And I tested it because I wasn't sure. Tarot's never been used in this way before. So I tested it. I got my very old academic tarot friend, Ray, who I learned with and who worked with me on the deck, him and an advanced student of mine as well. And they came over, we had wine, and we did readings in this way. And I have to say that my friend Ray was not convinced. He was at first. He was like, I'm not sure about this. This is a very unorthodox way of doing things. But by the end of it, he's going, this actually worked. Oh my God. It's like, it's valid, right? It works. And he was sort of a bit, well, what is this stuff that you're doing? So, so this is how it can help. And I just did a video recently. I have a membership, and I did a video about what we call the energetic realm, which is the um the chariot to justice. So 5 cards. And they inform us on the suit of wands and all the potentials on the suit of wands. And I have a student who is very high up in a very prestigious learning establishment who emailed me and said, I wish they taught this in school. I wish they did. How amazing would this be for children to see this and learn this? This is incredible stuff.
I was gonna say the same thing, actually. I was gonna, ask you, what is the earliest age that you really should start pulling cards and figuring this out for yourself? And I was also going to say the same thing, like, this is a tool that could help so many more people if they were open-minded to it, if they actually understood the nature of our reality, that we are all energy, that we do have a direct line to spirit, that there are that we do have guides, that we're down here, that when you call upon them, ask them, look within, start getting into your own body, grounding yourself, doing all the steps, having some sort of spiritual practice that you can start communicating with energies around you that will help guide you in life. And tarot is that direct line to get direct life path information. And so many people need that. There's so many people out there that are kind of flailing around a little bit, not having the right direction, not knowing what their next step in whatever journey that they are having is. So, when should people start
Well, I mean,
experiencing the tarot?
well, I there are a couple of things here which I think need to be borne in mind. Um, I mean, probably you could understand this from maybe 12 onwards, but we have to be careful because if you just start drawing cards, for a start, we have to be really careful that we don't use tarot as a feedback loop. So I see so often online and on social media, people asking questions like, um, why does this person not like me? Or why, when will we get back together? Now, we've all been there. Of course we have, right? But if you put that in the hands of teenagers who might be going through some insecurity and you don't train them properly, they're going to look at that and see all of their worst fears come back at them, and that could be not fun at all and not useful to them and potentially quite damaging. So look, it is a powerful thing, and I think it's really useful to teach it as theory to
Mm,
kids. I think if you're going to use tarot, at least educate yourself as to how to read it properly. Again, we have people asking these questions and then laying out 6 cards and going, I don't know what it says. Well, of course you don't know what it says because you've got no clear question. You haven't made a focused reading of it. It's all the noise. So there
yeah.
is a way of doing it to make it useful to you. And that I think requires a little bit of education. As the same with anything, anything that is powerful does require a little bit of respect and a little bit of,
Yeah.
honoring the process.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think tarot is, it's I don't know if you would call it ritualistic, but it is a ceremonial getting in touch with your own energies of your guides, calling in light. Do you think that there's a world where sometimes if you're not working, you can work with negative energies while you're working with tarot? Because there's malevolent and benevolent energies around us, Is there any danger of calling in an energy that you don't want when you're working through the tarot process?
Well, I think we always have to be mindful that everything exists. And I certainly wouldn't sit here and say that there isn't, you know, negative energy as well as white light energy. Of course there is. That would be crazy because everything, all potential exists. So what we have to make sure we do whenever we invite the energetic world in is to be very mindful that we are only working with, and we state it out loud and we focus our attention, we are only working on white light energy, and we only want information that is for our highest good and for our ultimate happiness and for the happiness of all concerned. And so we can make those statements before we do a reading, which also helps to focus us and calm us down as well. So we're not caught in the melee of our emotions when we're reading. Um, so I think, again, a little bit of training, just a little bit of, a little bit of wisdom as to how to use it. And you wouldn't get in a car without having a few lessons, wouldn't you?
I mean, I made the mistake of working with my pendulum a lot without doing any kind of spiritual hygiene or putting a white light around me, and I started having weird things happen in my house, like the curtains came out of the wall, my Bluetooth speaker was coming on, I was kinda, like, saging and, like, I had some I don't know what it was, but there was a different energy that kind of came into my space, and I think it's gone now, but I do like to just say it out loud that you have to whenever you're going into a world, whether you're working with tarot or a pendulum or whatever, you should have put a white light around you and speak those words that you just said. So you're not invoking or allowing other negative spiritual attachments away into your own energy because that's what they will do. If you leave that open, they will, hey, come on in here. I can suck the life out of you for a while.
Yeah.
So, who is Obin? And how does he play into, numerology and all kinds of things? Who's
Yeah,
Obin?
yeah. Well, I think Obin is female. Obin sounds like
Oh,
a male name, and I thought Obin was male when I first got the name, but I encountered Obin a couple of times, and both times when I encountered that energy, she was definitely female, and I think perhaps I think perhaps Obin is they, and I don't mean that in the non-gender specific they. I mean I think it is a collective led by. So I think because she did say we. So
yeah.
when I asked what the name was of this, she said Obin, or I didn't get a gender particularly voice at that point. But then I asked why Obin, and what came back was because that's who we are. So that was interesting. And I
It
met Obin sort of almost a bit more, not face to face, but certainly I encountered her energy when she'd been present and we were doing the deck and the thing, and I could feel this really stingy. It was like I was fried. I had to take breaks because my brain was frying so much with the intensity of it all. And but I was seeing clients, and I noticed that the clients that were showing up were just amazing. They were just wonderful clients that I absolutely adored working with, and a lot of them were creatives. And I sat down in my meditation one morning, and I just said, I just want to say thank you if this is indeed what's happening. I just want to say thank you for these wonderful clients. I'm so enjoying working with them and with you with this interaction that we have, and it makes me really happy. Thank you so much. And then what happened in the meditation was really odd because it was a bit like, when you look into a kaleidoscope and things start sort of, it's almost like the pattern starts moving. And suddenly the pattern, it's like, when the circle starts going out like that. And suddenly everything started to move outwards and expand and move. And I was like, oh, what's going on? And I remember thinking, wow, how far is this going? And it was like, oh, it was just expanding and expanding. And then all of a sudden, and I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. I knew I was on the top of a mountain. It was almost like if I had opened my eyes, I'd see this amazing view. I could feel the view. I could feel the vista, if you like. And then suddenly this energy swept in front of me, and I had, and I felt happiness that wasn't mine. It just washed over me. And this voice said, and we're very happy to be working with you too. It's like, what? And I was blown away by this. And I came out of the meditation and I burst into tears. I was so completely poleaxed by this beautiful energy. Any heartbreakingly beautiful energy. The funny thing is that even when I think about it, I actually get emotional because it was almost indescribably, non-processably beautiful.
Wow.
Like it's too much. Huge, too much to process. It was just stunning. It's just like, oh my God. And it was just wonderful. And so that's open.
What do you know about the collective Obin? What have they given you any secrets that you wanna tell us something?
I really wish that was the case. What came out of it for me, not what dimension they're in. I don't when I've tried to ask questions like that, I kind of just get brushed off, right? It's just not important. You just don't want to talk about that and not interested in having that conversation. Um, but but it's almost like there is a specific job that they wanted to do. I mean, the whole system is one job. But the system is there for a reason. And the reason they said, and this came out in the numerology as well, it's about breaking patterns. It's about patterns that we are locked into as humans that we find just, it's like we're just going round. It's just happening again and again and again. And it's like we can't break the hamster wheel, whether it be relationships or whatever it is. It's like we get locked into a loop that we don't know how to break. And that's what they're most interested in. So helping us break those patterns. And a lot of my client readings I attract clients who are struggling with those patterns, and a lot of my readings have been focused on that. So they don't really like much. I don't think we're looking at energy which has ever incarnated.
Mm,
I don't get that sense from them that they are actually, spirits that have passed on.
yeah.
I also had the impression that they stand in front of my team. So whoever my team was, it's almost like they've stepped into the front. But it is very much a working relationship. So they are not my team. They are the work team, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yep, yep, yep. Speaking of giving readings, why don't we pull cards and, ask the question like what I have coming up or what I need to be putting my energy towards, or can we do a little tarot session and you kinda walk through some
Of course.
cards and
Yeah,
see
of
where it
course.
takes us?
Sure. All right. let's ask for a message from your guides.
Ooh, yes, yes, let's do that.
Okay.
I love a message from a guide.
Yeah. Lovely. Well, what a lovely message for you, Christy. So this is the Six of Wands, and this is we're proud of you. We see you
Oh.
as being, this is confidence. You need to really channel that confidence and lead the way. That's a really, really lovely message. So that's a big thumbs up. That's like with cheerleaders, muchly. It's really strong, big, yes. And a real invitation for you to also carry that forward, carry that torch, to be confident yourself and to lead. It's a leadership card. So that and teamwork, right? Teamwork is a big part of this card. So it's like together we work, together we are successful, together we can take that fire energy and yeah, and it's lovely and in balance. So that's what they want you to embody with them. That's
I
really
mean, I've been going on my own little journey here, and I really have started kind of um using a few techniques to kind of tap into my own energy, my spirit guides, and I'm starting to have the ability to get messages, a lot more synchronicities, a lot more um nods from the universe that I'm kind of on the right path. And I interview so many mediums and psychics and astrologists, and like I get such feedback that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be a teacher. I'm supposed to help people awaken. And I've really been stepping into that and having more confidence like, okay, universe, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm going to start walking in this direction. And that resonates with me because I feel like that makes sense that they're looking at me and going, "Okay, leader, let's do this and let's do it together, and we're proud of you for, like, stepping in and taking your own power." So, like, that does resonate with me in
yeah.
a big way.
Yeah,
So,
no,
I
I
love
think
that.
yeah, no, I think that's really, really good. And you're gonna love the next card.
Oh, there's
Yeah.
more.
Well, I mean, I just asked while you were talking, I asked um, what should Christy put her attention on next? What would you like to say to her is her
Oh.
are her next steps, right? That you've said you want to work together, you've said you want her to lead the way. In what way do you want her to lead? So we have the King of Wands here. So this is rock star. This is you being the the symbol. So when we have a rock star, when we have the King of Wands is really confident and charismatic, and has and is sort of like a figurehead. So the rock star is a figurehead. There's a whole team behind the rock star, right? Doing it on his own, and that leans into the idea of teamwork. So you can be the figurehead here. You can be the one that stands there going, "This is amazing. Look at this. Let me have your attention," right? And then behind you, all the backstage crew are going, "Okay, right, come on, let's get this going. Let's get this baby on tour." So I think that is so awesome. That is absolutely in alignment with that last card.
It is.
Like,
The messages that I'm getting through people like you and through various other ways has been so magically guiding me into this new position in my life. My podcast is pretty new. It's been out like maybe a year and a half, not even a little, maybe, yeah, a year and a half. and it has grown in a way that I can't explain. I've never asked guests to be on my show. I'm always super open to, like, whoever crosses my path. It's been a mystical, magical school of learning and of growing and expanding my mind in so many ways, and I'm learned so much. I now feel like I could start going out and talking about everything that I have learned in my own experience. I've had a dark night of the soul, a health crisis, my own journey, and I feel like I'm supposed to be out there talking more about my own journey in a way and helping people awaken. It's been very
Yeah,
weird,
yeah.
very,
It is
very
weird.
strange.
It is
It's
weird. It is
weird.
weird.
It's
The
weird.
whole thing is weird. It is. It
It
does.
is.
Even now, after all of these years, Christy, I still think it's weird.
It it is weird. I think what I am loving to communicate to people is that pump the brakes, get out of the 3D matrix. There's so much more going on in our existence than what we think. I don't think we know our real history. I don't think we know exactly what we're doing down here. I don't think religion is the answer. I think we all have a soul purpose. I think we come down here to learn lessons. We are eternal beings of light, and we should use things like the tarot to tap in, figure out what we're supposed to be doing, and what are we supposed to create in this lifetime. So i I think the more I'm on this train, the more I understand how truly magical, mystical we really are, and that things like tarot should be the norm in our world if we are to evolve past whatever state that we are in now, which is mainly asleep, like programmed, not really understanding what our lives are. So I feel like
Yeah,
I'm supposed to be talking about that, like
yeah, yeah,
waking people up to we're asleep. There's just so many things I can go on and on and on about what I've learned and what I wanna try and tell people now.
yeah.
But, we're coming up on an hour here. What can people expect from reading the Life Code Tarot? What will it bring to them?
Yeah. Um, I mean, the life coach tower is not just about learning to do readings, it's a bigger picture. And I think that's really important. So I think if we start engaging with tarot as a way of looking at life differently and looking at our role in life differently. And the point of us being energetic beings is really important because everything is energy. And that sounds glim. But nevertheless, when we start thinking, well, okay, if I didn't have a body and I literally was just energy, how would I be read? What would other energetic beings see? So therefore we have to start, it's almost like we start a different conversation about ourselves and the world. And I think with this book, what I'm trying to do with this book is introduce tarot in with a slightly different approach. And I say this is not primarily a learn to read tarot book. So it it has it talks about the cards and what they mean in the book, but there's no card meanings kind of like listed. So you don't go to the book to look up card meanings. That's not what this is about. It talks about the stories that run through tarot, and it talks about how tarot speaks directly to us and our universal connection to each other, and how we all share the same stories, and how the stories are uniquely personal, but also unbelievably universal too, and how miraculous that is. And so when we look at the language of tarot, and we decide perhaps to engage in learning it in the right way, um, it can really help us get a perspective on life that perhaps is a different one to the usual one.
Yes. 100%. It can open your life up to things that you couldn't even imagine. I wish people were, more open-minded about things like tarot because it can be such a key tool to figuring out what you're meant to do. And I think once you get that information and you start walking in that direction, things will unfold for you in a magical, mystical, synchronicity kind of way because that is what your path is. And your guides will help you uh, get on your path and help you unfold what your journey is supposed to be here. And everybody has a journey while they're here. If you're here, there's a reason why you're here. You have a soul purpose. You are supposed to learn and grow and expand your consciousness. And the best way to figure out how you're supposed to do that, I think, is the tarot deck, tarot.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
is it can illuminate you to, like, so many things, in your life, and it's magical, right? It's completely magical, symbolic journey of the tarot is what we humans are. We're magic, Janice. We really are magic.
We are the magician, the fool and the magician of the secret of life. So
Yeah,
that's the whole point, because we are the magician. And so in tarot,
yeah,
the magician is the one that takes the potential energy and basically makes it real, makes it manifest on solid
yes,
ground in real life. And I think one of the things that I'm really passionate about is making tarot make sense in real life. And one of the things that I struggle with slightly is when people just live in tarot land and it's just the world of tarot and it sort of just intersects a little bit. But for me, what tarot is really about, from my perspective, is commenting on proper real life. So, when we look at the Fool and the Magician, we can describe them scientifically. We can describe them. When I went to school, I learned about potential and kinetic energy. That's how I describe the Fall of the Magician. This is not fantasy. This is not, woo. This is real.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and when we look at them like that, change our relationship to, what power we do have now. Look, it is simple. And often it goes slower than we'd like. And sometimes, we do have a path to walk that is perhaps not of our choosing or
yeah,
appears to
yeah,
be not of our choosing, but we do have more power than we think we do. And that's the key to actually figuring out, okay, how much power do I really have? How
yeah.
can I learn to engage with it in a way that's going to elevate my life and make it better and make me happier?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I love this. If people want to, like, reach out to you for a reading, do you have a website or do you do online readings or anything that I could put in the show notes? And,
Yes, of
go
course.
g people should get a reading. They really should sit down, especially with somebody like you, and you'll be able to give them so much help and guidance. How can people get that from you?
Yeah, very simple. JanisKing.uk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's
So you'll
Janice.
do on
Yeah, Janice with an IS, like Joplin.
I will put it in the show notes as well, so I'll just link it in the show notes. But, reach out and get a reading from Janice. I mean, I might do it myself. I definitely encourage everybody to get on their own path and get into working with the tarot to figure out who you are, to figure out where you're meant to be. You're meant to be somewhere. And the sooner you start figuring that out, the more mystical, magical, and wonderful your life will be because you will be on your soul journey. Um, Janice, thank you for being a part of the Fate podcast. I really appreciate you spending your time with me today. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap on this episode. Thank you, Janice. Reach out to her, get a reading, buy the book, and figure out where you're supposed to be, gang. We'll see you next week. Journey well, everyone. And that is a wrap on this episode of Fate, from Atheism to Enlightenment. I want to thank Janis King, the Queen of Tarot, for coming on board and sharing her experiences and her time with me. And I really do suggest everybody get a reading, um, a life reading. If you have certain questions about your life, if you're feeling stuck, like you don't know what is the next step in your path, go get a tarot reading from someone like Janis King that knows exactly what she's doing and can give you good insights as to where you should be heading in life. We all have a path to follow when we're here. I am convinced of that. Um, Tarot is something that's been used for centuries. There's a reason why it has proliferated through every single culture almost across the planet. And I say it all the time. Things are just so much more mystical and magical than we ever could have understood. And now that I'm kind of out of 3D matrix land and I'm completely focused my attention in another way with regards to how I view life through a different lens. I mean, tarot to me is something that is super important. You don't have to become a proficient tarot card reader, but you should definitely dabble in tarot to help you figure out your life path, your code, your plan. Everyone has a plan. So the more I think about the arc of the human experience, the traumas, the trials, the tribulations, we all experience them in different ways in different times in our life. But it seems like managing our emotions, overcoming obstacles, and continuing to grow, learn, and expand from mistakes is all a part of the process. And tapping into tarot and that energy, that ability, I think when you're working with tarot, especially when you're working with somebody like Janice, who is an intuitive, who has the ability to kind of get downloads, get information from the other side, it can be so helpful in guiding you along your life. Life is hard. I mean, I thought my life was so great. And then when it took a really terrible turn, I was lost. I wasn't spiritual at that point. I wasn't tapping into energies. I was an atheist. I didn't understand why this was happening to me. And through this whole process, my journey is really unfolding and like, oh, now I understand why this happened. Oh, now this makes sense. And had I had tarot to lean on, maybe it would have been a little bit of a bright light for me to overcome some of the most dark points of my life because I've had some really gnarly, dark days in my life. And had I been more spiritual, more open to that kind of information years ago, I think it really could have helped me shoulder the burden of the things that I've had to endure throughout my own personal life. And I am going to reach out to Janice and get a reading because I am at like, not a crossroads, but I am feeling like um, I want to figure out what the next iteration of this show is because I've been doing it a year and a half or so, and I just feel like it's time for me to take the show in a little bit different direction. I've kind of been letting things happen to me, and now I want to start being more proactive about the people that I have on the show and what really interests me. Because even though I have been doing shows from every single spiritual concept you can muster, I also have certain topics that I really want to focus on. I really want to focus on the nature of our reality, what this matrix is, What are we doing here? Our soul path, using the law of attraction, manifestation, understanding our power. Understanding our power comes within, understanding that it is not exterior, that we don't need to be looking outside of ourselves for anything. It all lies here. All your questions can be answered from here. You are your own guide in a lot of ways if you can start doing more spiritual practices like tapping into yourself through meditation, grounding, living in the present moment is something that I do on a necessity so much now. Like, I understand why things are starting to unfold the way they are in my life, and it all is very mystical and magical, man. It just is. So, anyways, tarot, if you are unsure of what your next step in your own personal journey is, get a good tarot card reading. You will get answers if you tap into that energy and you ask the questions and you open yourself up to that instead of living in your like closed down, I can't do that, or that doesn't exist mind, that limited mind that we all have. I certainly had it. Reach out to somebody and get a reading and figure out what you're supposed to be doing here, gang. Everyone has a soul purpose. Everyone has things that they're supposed to accomplish while they are here. And the sooner you start understanding that and start letting go of things that don't matter, distractions, whether they be watching the news, scrolling on your phone, or allowing your emotions to be overtaken by outrage or anger, by other people, whether it's an influencer or another podcast or whatever. Like, turn all that stuff off and sit in silence and see what your own inner being will bring to the surface and go from there. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there, gang. I'm hoping that you continue to journey with me. I'm really going to start expanding the show. I want to start talking more about what I have learned and how I have changed my own daily life through learning everything that I've learned this last year and a half of doing the show. I probably read like 2 to 4 books a month. It has really been an intensive school almost. It's like submerging myself into the land of spiritual concepts. Like, it's just been absolutely magical. And I hope you keep on this train with me. I am trying to raise the consciousness of this planet, and I need you to help me. So tell a friend, rate, review the show, like the show, share the show, comment, do anything that you can that you feel would be supportive of my show. Buy my book. It's in the show notes. It's adorable. I mention it every now and again. Anyways, gang, I will put the Life Code Tarot book in the show notes. Pick it up. I will put her website, and I highly recommend you booking a reading so you can be more in tune with your life path. Get on to your soul purpose here, and you will see that your life will unfold in the most magical ways. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Fate, from Atheism to Enlightenment. Keep journeying with me, expanding your mind, get into your own practice, start meditating, start tuning into yourself, start noticing synchronicities, start asking for guidance. You are the director of your life. You create what your reality is through your vibration, through what you think, through your intentions, through what you speak. So thank you so much for keeping up with the show, and we will see you next week for another episode of Fate, from Atheism to Enlightenment. Journey well, everyone, and welcome to your fate. I'll see you next week. Bye.